Once more arose the great destroying voice. Behold the figures of this symbol ring. Its solid outlines of creative dream, inspiring the great concrete tasks of earth. Where nature changes not, man cannot change. Hope not to call God down into his life. How shalt thou bring the everlasting here? There is no house for him in hurrying time.
changeless sky, long quays and ghats and harbors, white with sails, challenged her sight a while, and then were gone. So this gives us a little sense of this realm where she has entered. The narrator is continuing his introduction to this realm, describing it. And in the last part that we read last time, on page 642, he was describing how the phantoms of man's thought also were there, but kind of passing, very ephemeral. The shapes of nature and the arts of man, philosophies and disciplines and laws, and the dead spirit of old societies, constructions of the Titan and the worm, as if lost remnants of forgotten light, before her mind there fled with trailing wings, dimmed revelations and delivering words, emptied of their mission and their strength to save. The messages of the evangelist gods, voices of prophets, scripts of vanishing creeds. Each in its hour eternal claimed went by. Ideals, systems, sciences, poems, crafts, tireless there perished, and again recurred, sought restlessly by some creative power, but all were dreams crossing an empty vast. So I think that's where we left off. And so we'll continue now, and we can maybe start here.
Where are you now?
So we're on 242 near the bottom.
62.
Page 642.
And line 62.
Okay.
Ascetic voices called of lonely seers on mountain summits or by river banks, or from the desolate heart of forest glades, seeking heaven's rest or the spirit's worldless peace, or in bodies motionless like statues, fixed in trance cessations of their sleepless thought, sad sleeping souls, and this too was a dream. All things the past has made and slain were there, its lost forgotten forms that once had lived, and all the present loves as new revealed, and all the hopes the future brings, had failed already, caught and spent in efforts vain, repeated fruitlessly age after age. Unwearied, all returned, insisting still, because of joy in the anguish of pursuit, and joy to labor and to win and lose, and joy to create and keep, and joy to kill. The rolling cycles passed and came again, brought the same toils and the same barren end, forms ever new and ever old, the long appalling revolutions of the world.
Thank you. So this realm, like the others that Savitri is passing through as she approaches the home, the lair of death, and just like all the worlds that Aswapati had traveled through, they all have their imprint here in our world. So this, what Sri Aurobindo, or the narrator, is describing here also has its influence here, and we can see its parallels in our world played out as was in the previous section that I read, all these philosophies, all these constructions of the human mind, all its disciplines and laws, all these ideals, systems, sciences, poems, crafts, all of it continues but fades away again into distant memory and dissolves, and then again recurs in new forms, new systems, new philosophies, new teachings come. And it just goes on and on and on. And no deliverance ever seems to arise out of it. Just comes and goes. And in this section that Tinaka has just read, he also speaks of these teachings of the saints and sages, their realizations, their seekings. That too just passes and dies away. These sages seeking heaven's rest or the Spirit's wordless peace, or in bodies motionless like statues, fixed, entranced cessations of their sleepless thought, sat sleeping souls, and this too was a dream. All things the past has made and slain were there. Its lost, forgotten forms that once had lived, and all the present loves as new revealed, and all the hopes the future brings had failed already, caught and spent in efforts vain, repeated fruitlessly, age after age. All these strainings of the human spirit towards the divine, all of that too seems to just come and go persistently. Forms ever new and ever old. The long, appalling revolutions of the world. So it was this, in part, that Sri Aurobindo hoped to change, I think, by bringing this new supramental power here. That even the realizations of mankind, of the spirit in mankind through all these ages, reached some kind of summit, some wordless peace, some cessation of thought, entering into pure being. But the world continues, as it always has. These beings pass away, and all is as before. So that's what he was hoping to change. So we'll continue. You can maybe go to B here.
Once more arose the great destroying voice. Across the fruitless labor of the worlds, his huge denials, all-defeating might, pursued the ignorant march of dolorous time. Behold the figures of this symbol realm, its solid outlines of creative dream, inspiring the great concrete tasks of earth. In its motion parable of human life, here thou canst trace the outcome nature gives to the sin of being and the error in things and the desire that compels to live and man's incurable malady of hope. In an immutable order's hierarchy where nature changes not, man cannot change. Ever he obeys her fixed mutations law in a new version of her oft-told tale. In ever-wheeling cycles turns the race. His mind is pent in circling boundaries. For mind is man. Beyond thought, he cannot soar. If he could leave his limits, he would be safe. He sees, but cannot mount to his greater heavens. Even winged, he sinks back to his native soil.
Thank you. Let's pause. So death is giving voice to the reality of this realm, that this is the truth of our existence, that everything passes and is no more. All these efforts of mankind all end in failure, and then due to his malady of hope, his continued effort, he continues, recreates the same failure over and over in new forms. And he perhaps expresses some truth in what he says. Is her fixed mutations law in a new version of her oft-told tale, in ever-wheeling cycles turns the race. And then he speaks of mind and the limitations of mind. His mind is pent in circling boundaries. For mind is man, beyond thought he cannot soar. If he could leave his limits, he would be safe. And he sees but cannot mount to his greater heavens. It's as if he cannot reach beyond his mind into the freedom of the Spirit. If he enters into that, it's still, he cannot bring it down to earth. He cannot change the earth and what he is. He can escape into it, perhaps, but he cannot bring it here. So let's continue. Go.
Line
Third line.
from
Third line from the top.
he is a captive in his net of mind and beats soul wings against the walls of life. In vain his heart lifts up its yearning prayer, peopling with brilliant gods the formless void. Then, disappointed, to the void he returns, and in its happy nothingness asks release. The calm nirvana of his dream of self, the word in silence ends, in naught the name. Apart amid the mortal multitudes, he calls the Godhead incommunicable to be the lover of his lonely soul, or casts his spirit into its void embrace. Or he finds his copy in the impartial all. He imparts to the immobile his own will, attributes to the eternal wrath and love, and to the ineffable lends 1,000 names. Hope not to call God down into his life. How shalt thou bring the everlasting year? There is no house for him in hurrying time. Vainly thou seeks in matter's world an aim. No aim is there, only a will to be. All walk by nature, bound forever the same.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So here seems to be suggesting that there is just this ephemeral, transient life and mind. And beyond that, there is only the void. But with our minds, we imagine all of these things and project them onto this void. Peopling with brilliant gods the formless void. Then, disappointed to the void, he turns, and in its happy nothingness asks release. The calm nirvana of his dream of self. So that is also a certain viewpoint of Indian spirituality, the Buddhist view particularly. What?
He talks of a lonely soul. The soul cannot be lonely.
Yeah.
So he's referring to the psychic, the vital nature of the soul, or the implication that the soul has a vital component.
Well, he calls the human being calls to the Godhead to come down, to be the lover of his lonely soul. But that soul also may just be an imagination or something. He thinks he has this immortal spirit, but for death, I don't think he agrees. But he just imagines these things, just like he peoples the void with gods. He thinks, imagines he has this eternal soul, which is really just a product of his body, of his ephemeral, perishing body. So he's kind of always saying he imparts to the immobile his own will. The human being has this transient will. It's always imagining things, it's always hoping, it's always dreaming of some greater ideal, of some lasting truth, of some immortal spirit, of some divine power that will release him. But he says this is not so. It's not, these are all imaginations. Hope not to call God down into his life. So Sri Aurobindo kind of introduces this next section with these short sentences. These 3 one-line sentences, a 2-line sentence, and another 1-line sentence, which ends, all walk by nature, bound forever the same. And now we go to this longest sentence in the poem. And let's read. So, yeah. Yeah, he's suggesting that everything is transient in this world. How are you going to bring the everlasting into this perishing mold of humanity? You can't bring eternity into time. You can't bring the infinite into a small space. Well, yeah, but this is death's argument. This is death's argument. He's saying that's not possible, it's not rational. Why do you think these things? These are dreams, these are your imaginations, your hopes. And now he's going to describe in this long sentence all these things that come and go. Nothing lasts here. So, shall we read?
Vainly thou seekest in matter, world and aim. No aim.
You should be reading, look on these forms that stay a while and pass.
1 to 7.
Those lips that long and steep, then are no more. Those structure that have no binding truth. The severe creeds that cannot save themselves, but perish in the strangling hands of the air. Discard for man thought proved false by time, philosophy that strip all problem bare. But nothing ever have solved science earth begin, and science omnipotent in vain, by which men learn of what sea, sun are made, transform all form to serve their outward needs. Read through the sky and sail beneath the sea, but learn not what they are, why they came. Those politics, architecture of man brain, that bricket with evil and good, wall in man's spirit, and fished house, place at once and jail, wrought while they ran and crumble before they crash. Those revolution, demon, drunken god, convulsing the wounded body of mankind, only to paint in new color an old face. Those wars, carriage, triumphant, run gone mad, the work of century vanishing in an hour. The blood of vanquished and victory crown, which meant to be born, must pay for which their pain. The hero face divine or stray limbs, the demon's grandeur mixed with the demigod, the glory and priesthood and shame. Why is it all the labor and the din? The transient joy and timeless sea of tears, the longing and the hoping and the cry, the battle and the victory and the fall, the aimless journey that can never push, the working toil, the incurrent sleep. Song, shoots and weeping, wisdom and idle word, the laughter of man, the irony of the gods.
Thank you. Let's pause. So we kind of see how the long sentence kind of reflects the content of how all of these things just keep coming and going, arising and perishing in the dust. These lives that long and strive, then are no more. These structures that have no abiding truth. The Savior creeds that cannot save themselves, but perish in the strangling hands of the years. Everything passes in time. It's just the very nature of our existence. No consummation comes, no fulfillment. It all ends in death. In all these efforts of mankind to build ideal societies, to revolt against the oppression of the rulers, only to seat new rulers on our backs. These wars that just continue, never settle anything, just pause for a while and then start again. And then he speaks also of this mixture that is there in everything. The hero's face divine on satyr's limbs, the demon's grandeur mixed with the demigods, the glory and the beasthood and the shame. The longing and the hoping and the cry, the battle and the victory and the fall. The aimless journey that can never pause. Just continues century after century, millennium after millennium. It's been going on thousands of years. And where are we? Just seems more of the same. So can we just, yeah?
My studies about Savitri, and the mother speaks about, the world is changing, no? That is, and not grasping. And the mother speaks about Savitri, that with the gods was also the record of the evolution of the earth. And so it seems there was an attempt to keep what it had worked out. No?
So there's a record, you're saying, perhaps in the Akasha or in some realm of the evolution of the earth and yes, all its gains.
There's also in one book, is it a picture of all the records, yeah. And but also in this, and I present now the mother's talking about commentaries about Savitri, and there she speaks about that. Then with the gods came the record.
With the gods came...
Because before had the four powers who had not connected to the origin anymore. And in the second emanation, the gods had been created to bring forward a more harmonious way. And with them also the record came, and the story that Savitri has to come. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, this argument is death's. He's saying this is the absolute final kind of reality and indictment or conviction of failure of this world. It just goes on, but never culminates in anything. It's just a repetition. That has a certain truth to it, but it's not the full truth. I mean, we can see how things just repeat over and over again. But for Sri Aurobindo, it's leading towards something, right? It's leading towards a culmination. It's leading towards a life divine. But death is not convinced of that. And it's also, I think, the case that as long as the evolution is restricted to mind, and even maybe spiritual mind, this final, kind of true deliverance of the world cannot come. We have sages, saints, yogis who can enter into the divine truth. But for the world, their power, their effect is limited. And the world continues in its same rounds. And so Sri Aurobindo aimed to bring a delivering power down into the world. And that's what Savitri represents. That delivering power of the divine. So that's what her aim also is. So she doesn't agree with death, and she will reply. So let's continue.
Where leads the march, whither the pilgrimage? Who keeps the map of the route or planned each stage? Or else, self-moved, the world walks its own way. Or nothing is there but only a mind that dreams. The world is a myth that happens to come true, a legend told to itself by conscious mind, imaged and played on a feigned matter's ground, on which it stands in an unsubstantial vast. Mind is the author, spectator, actor, stage. Mind only is, and what it thinks is seen. If mind is all, renounce the hope of bliss. If mind is all, renounce the hope of truth. For mind can never touch the body of the truth. And mind can never see the soul of God. Only shadow it grasps, nor hears his laugh. As it turns from him to vain the seeming things. As it turns from him to the vain seeming of things. Mind is a tissue woven of light and shade, where right and wrong have been sewn their mingled parts. Or mind is nature's marriage of convenience, between truth and falsehood, between joy and pain. This struggling pair no court can separate.
Thank you. Let's pause. I think it's interesting that death's argument ends in a question, and then that long sentence ends in a question. He says, "Why is it all? The labor and the din." And then he continues, and then in the following sentence, "Where leads the march? Whither the pilgrimage? Who keeps the map of the route or planned each stage?" So he raises these kind of interesting questions that maybe Sri Aurobindo is suggesting we ask ourselves. In a way, it doesn't end with a kind of a final conviction, but it raises these questions. And then he suggests some different alternative explanations, answers to those questions. Or else, self-moved, the world walks its own way, as if it just goes on with no guidance, with no direction. Or nothing is there, but only a mind that dreams. And the world is a myth that happened to come true, a legend told to itself by conscious mind. So then now he's going to emphasize that all of this is just a construction, a dream of the mind. But the mind too, it's not anything lasting. It also will die with the body. And so he's saying, if mind has created all of this, renounce the hope of bliss. Renounce the hope of truth. For mind can never see the soul of God, only his shadow it grasps, nor hears his laugh, as it turns from him to the vain seeming of things. And then again, mind is built of these, or is immersed in these dualities. It's a tissue woven of light and shade, where right and wrong have sewn their mingled parts. Or mind is nature's marriage of covenants. I guess this is like a formal agreement, a pact, between truth and falsehood, between joy and pain. This struggling pair no court can separate. So these dualities are inherent in mind. We can't separate them. We can't just have joy or bliss or truth and not the falsehood or the pain and suffering. These two always go together. Can we go here, Sohini? Each thought is a gold coin.
Each thought is a gold coin with bright alloy, and error and truth are its obverse and reverse. This is the imperial mintage of the brain, and of this kind is all its currency. Think not to plant on earth the living truth, or make of matter's world the home of God. Truth comes not there, but only the thought of truth. God is not there, but only the name of God. If self there is, it is bodiless and unborn. It is no one, and it is possessed by none. On what shalt thou then build thy happy world? Cast off thy life and mind, then art thou self, an all-seeing omnipresence stark, alone. If God there is, he cares not for the world. All things he sees with calm, indifferent gaze. He has doomed all hearts to sorrow and desire. He has bound all life with his implacable laws. How do you pronounce implacable?
Implacable.
Implacable. Implacable laws. He answers not the ignorant voice of prayer, eternal while the ages toil beneath, unmoved, untouched by aught that he has made. He sees as minute details mid the stars, the animal's agony and the fate of man. Immeasurably wise, he exceeds thy thought. His solitary joy needs not thy love.
So he's continuing this argument about the nature of mind and how these dualities are inherent in it. Error and truth are its obverse and reverse, as if it's like a coin. One side of the coin is truth and the other side is error. These always go together in mind. This is the imperial mintage of the brain. We mint coins, that coins are pressed at a mint. And of this kind is all its currency. This is the nature of mind. We can't get beyond that. And then again, he's telling Savitri, forget this idea of making this world divine, to plant on earth the living truth, or make of matter's world the home of God. Truth comes not there, but only the thought of truth. God is not there, but only the name of God. Mind can't touch God or truth. He says if it is, it's beyond mind, and it's beyond all of these efforts, vain, that you make here with your mind. If self there is, it is bodiless and unborn. Well, it's that same kind of idea that it's like this void. Okay, so in one argument he says there's only emptiness, there's only the void, there's only death beyond this world, beyond mind, beyond all of your life's hopes and dreams. There's only that. Now here he says, if there is a self, that too is eternal and unborn, and it's unlike anything that you can create or bring on earth. It's, if anything, if there is a consciousness, let's say, it just watches all what's happening dispassionately as an observer or witness, but it does not intervene in the earth's transient affairs. You can't bring it down here because it's unborn, it's eternal. And you can't bring the eternal into time or into space. If God there is, he cares not for the world. All things he sees with calm, indifferent gaze. So he just looks on all, and he's unaffected by all of this. He has doomed all hearts to sorrow and desire. He has bound all life with his implacable laws. He answers not the ignorant voice of prayer. And then he describes, he kind of says these kind of disparaging things about him. Why he creates this, and then he just has doomed all of this to suffering. And he says, eternal, while the ages toil beneath, unmoved, untouched by aught that he has made, by anything that he has created. He sees as minute details mid the stars. These things are just small little details. He sees the vast eternity of time, of the full universe and all its trillions of stars. And then he looks down at our world and sees the animal's agony and the fate of man, and these are just very tiny, insignificant details. He's unmoved by all of that. Immeasurably wise, he exceeds thy thought. His solitary joy needs not thy love. He may be in bliss, but you are not, and your world cannot be. He's saying if God exists, that's what he is. So maybe we can go to Brian? Or did you read yet? No, I don't think so.
Truth in human thinking cannot dwell. If thou desirest truth, then still thy mind, forever slain by the dumb, unseen light. Immortal bliss lives not in human air. How shall the mighty mother her calm delight keep fragrant in this narrow, fragile vase, or lodge her sweet, unbroken ecstasy in hearts which earthly sorrow can assail, and bodies careless death can slay at will? Dream not to change the world that God has planned. Strive not to alter his eternal law. If heavens there are whose gates are shut to grief, there seek the joy thou couldst not find on earth, or in the imperishable hemisphere, where light is native and delight is king, and spirit is the deathless ground of things. Choose thy high station, child of eternity. If thou art spirit, and nature is thy robe, cast off thy garb and be thy naked self, immutable in its undying truth. Alone forever in the mute, alone.
Thank you. So again, he's saying that this truth cannot enter into mind. If you want truth, then you have to still your mind and enter into that silence. And then he says, how shall the mighty mother her calm delight keep fragrant in this narrow, fragile vase, or lodge her sweet, unbroken ecstasy in hearts which earthly sorrow can assail and bodies careless death can slay at will. So again, he's saying these divine forces, the divine bliss, it cannot dwell in these, frail human hearts and human bodies. If you want that, you have to enter into that and leave this world behind. Don't try to change this world. Strive not to alter his eternal law. He's saying this is the law of this world, this transience, this limitation, these defects and flaws and errors and falsehoods. This is the nature of the world that God has created. You can't change it. You can leave it. And then he even speaks of heavens. If heavens there are, whose gates are shut to grief, there seek the joy thou couldst not find on earth. He always puts this qualifier, if. He may not be entirely convinced, but if there are heavens, then go into heaven. But forget about this earth. This is mine. This is my domain, where everything perishes and comes to me. Or if thou art spirit, and nature is thy robe, cast off thy garb, and be thy naked self, immutable in its undying truth, unchanging in its truth, alone forever, in the mute alone, the silent oneness, the unmoving, the pure spirit. Be that. Enter into that. So I think we stop there for today.
This line I find that is true. The entire speech of if thou hearest truth, then still thy mind. As though he told
Yeah. Yeah, well, Sri Aurobindo says we should still our mind too, I guess. But he's suggesting that's all of nature. That's the highest level of nature, mind. And there's nothing really beyond. No divine life. So if you still the mind, you enter into this nothingness, or into this pure witness, consciousness that takes no part in the world. Yeah, can't find it here. Immortal bliss lives not in human air. Yeah, he's suggesting if there is a eternal bliss, immortal bliss, you have to leave the world to find it. It may be there. If there is a God and he lives in this bliss, but he is beyond this world. Here there's only this joy and suffering. These two wedded together, which can't be parted by any court. Okay, so we stop, pick up next time.
Once more arose the great destroying voice. Behold the figures of this symbol ring. Its solid outlines of creative dream, inspiring the great concrete tasks of earth. Where nature changes not, man cannot change. Hope not to call God down into his life. How shalt thou bring the everlasting here? There is no house for him in hurrying time.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.